At Judges Week, I got to play AD1FT.
I'm sorry, what?
AD1FT.
Why do you got to start all these with at Judges Week?
Because this was cool. This was play a lot of cool games. This is one I was definitely excited to check out. So this was one of my favorite, probably the favorite trailer that I had from the first annual Game Awards from last year.
Oh, you're right. It was a good trailer.
I really dug it, and I mean that's the game. You know, like it was a debut trailer from the game. We very much sold exactly what the game is.
You're running low
what
on
you saw in
oxygen?
that trailer was basically the exact demo that I played, and he said it was a pre-beta build, and that there will be a whole new build at E3. So at E3, there's actually going to premiere a whole new section of the game. Didn't seem like it was the beginning. It kind of seemed. I think they said, because you love context. No context. They just threw you right into it. So I'm sure when you actually like play the game, there's like a lot more narrative. I could pick up kind of like Doom 3 style like voice recordings as I was like going through the base. I don't know if there's gonna be any walking in the game, but the whole thing I played was floating, which is like you're constantly battling. I mean, it's just like the game should be called "No, I want to go that direction." You know, it's like no. And the thing that sucks is there's doorways and stuff like that, and it wasn't that difficult to get to those, but you have to keep grabbing canisters as you're going through this place. So you're walking through all of these beautiful environments, and I feel bad because it's kind of like puzzle games or something that are gorgeous, but you're like, I don't have time. You know, or like the backgrounds in Guitar Hero and Rock Band. You're like, that's cool, you're doing something there, but I'm looking at the middle of the screen the whole time. So I'm going through these just gorgeous areas with plant life and, damage to the base. So I'm wondering like what happened there, and like logs I want to find and read and stuff, but like screw all that because I got to find like green light. Where is it? And it's like, there it is at the end of the room. And then like, air swim over to it and grab it and get more oxygen. Then get into the next room and like find it again.
Your oxygen is constantly depleting, right?
Right.
That's nerve-wracking.
And her breath is
scary.
Like as she goes and goes. Like,
yeah.
So
I would love it because this sounds so jarring. I would love it if the beginning of the game you're on land, so when like shit hits the fan, then you just really feel fish out of water.
Like gravity backwards.
Yeah.
But it was funny waiting to demoing the game, and then watching people afterwards. Everyone died. They picked up a controller, they went into the game world, didn't find one oxygen thing, and died immediately. And the person had to be like, okay, so you need to find oxygen. You're like, oh, thanks, okay. So maybe the game kind of introduces you to that mechanic, like more organically.
Yeah.
Loved that the actual act of grabbing something, holding down the button extends your arm. So you can have your arm held out when you go up to grab it, or if you're just like, an expert at it after playing the game for 3 or 4 hours, you can just like yoink and grab it and know the distance of like how far it needs to be away before you can actually grab it. But I did like that aesthetic of the extended hand, like, like especially when just momentum is working against you and you're not actually moving that fast towards it, but you don't want to correct yourself because you're afraid it's going to like spin you off in a totally crazy direction. Not to mention you hit something, and like if you like nudge it and that thing bounces and it starts going back the other way in the room, it's like just leave it. Like it's not.
So can you actually describe what it means to pick something up? Like
just the only things I could pick up were I could manipulate, like isolation style. I could manipulate doors to like move stuff and open doorways and stuff. But the only stuff I was actually grabbing were the energy, the air pockets.
But did you ever miss one? Did you ever try to grab it and it slips out your fingers?
It would just I would nudge it instead, and so it would like bounce off something and then go over my head, and I'd be like, forget it, because I'm right next to a door. I might as well open up that door and go into the next room.
Do you have one mission like get off, or is it like, oh, this door is broken, go fix the door. Oh, this power is out, go fix the power. It seemed pretty linear,
which seemed like they mentioned it being the pre-beta build, so it seemed like maybe we want to orchestrate this area for you to just keep going. Maybe if there's voice logs, like make them very obvious, kind of put them right in front of you, so you're just kind of exploring the world. And then at the end, I got outside, and there's like an objective marker. It's like, outside meaning like out into open space.
Oh, sure.
And they're like, oh, and you just got to get over to that thing over there. And I was like, well, that's not gonna happen. So I'll just like swim over to this area, because I could see how much oxygen I had. It's like, there's no way. And your boosters are your oxygen as well. So, like you can go booster heavy if you like really want to, get to every place, but you got to have the oxygen to support that. And I think just from the vibe that I had, that by the time we actually get to that point in the game, it won't be that stressful. Like if you expect me to pick up audio logs, like don't make it nearly impossible for me to just like get through this room,
Yeah.
So I imagine there's going to be a lot more. So it's kind of stressful in that regard, but I think that, again, it was the way the demo was built.
Can you like bounce off walls and stuff, like advanced moves, kind of like springboard yourself?
That'd be cool. Maybe like maybe grab things and kind of swing yourself. Like not so much in the demo. It was all just boosters.
And they didn't have Oculus set up.
They did have VR set up.
Okay.
I opted not to do that because it was my first appointment of the day, and I'm like, if that thing messes me up, then I'm pretty shot for the rest of the day. But it looked, I mean, on one end, I could see it kind of being double-edged sword, where like, from the guy that I saw playing the regular game, he was being like much more methodical. His movement was his, mostly his movement speed was his view speed, because he's just constantly checking out like where he's going, where the person in VR seemed to like be able to scan the environment a lot faster, like it didn't feel so weird to kind of push myself in this direction and then look all the way behind me. Whereas, like, I imagine that would kind of fumble me up a little bit when I was doing that with dual analog sticks. At the same time,
cool.
If I'm in space with retro boosters traveling through 0G and having a thing on my head simulate, I'm vomiting in 90 seconds, no question. So it's like, that seems kind of like a challenging environment.
Get prepared for space.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to be an astronaut. I never applied for this.
You don't want to go into space. I didn't say be an astronaut. I just said get into space.
Oh, man.
I don't want to get into space if it means the ship blows up and I wake up with amnesia and have no idea what happened.
And you have to go find oxygen out there?
Yeah. Not to name drop another game, but the thing that was hilarious, I played Abzu at the same appointment. And Abzu and Adrift are two totally different experiences.
Abzu's
just kind of like, go swimming, man, whatever. Oxygen. Just go, there's a turtle. Just go swim with that turtle, man. And Adrift's like, and you're dead. What is that? How did you find yourself in this thing? And you're like, I don't know, I'm a games journalist, I'm playing a game. And it's just like, you idiot, you're in the middle of a spaceship with no oxygen? What are you doing? It's like,
is there any music?
Oxygen. Yeah, but it was all in game. So there was one interview that I listened to that the guy put on, like, oh, let's listen to some classical music or something. And so like they have little beats there where you're like piecing together the story, which seems like really huge in first person right now. There's like Soma, caffeine. There's like lots of sci-fi.
What's it called? Diegetic.
Yeah.
Diegetic music.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Was there sound in space?
Yeah, but it was muffled. Okay. There was a little electricity on some of the edges, some frayed wires that if I got too close. I don't know, didn't really pay attention to if I had a health meter or not, but it like certainly slowed you down, and like pace seems to be like a big deal, especially in the beginning of the game when you're like, you're living from one oxygen canister to the next. So
Brandon, here's what is weird to me. You introduced this as one of your favorites of E3 Judges Week.
It wasn't. Let me put it this way. It was. I just totally cut you off. Was that?
No,
were you just sparking that conversation?
The end of that sentence is, why are you just complaining about it?
I was excited to finally get to play Adrift because aesthetically I really dig it. I don't think what I played, I imagine, is kind of stressful because it's like I would see oxygen things and it's like, well, yeah, I'm taking this, but not necessarily for any kind of like progression I'm going to take with me. I just want to see the end of this demo, So like there was the tendency to like rush it and not realize like, how much time should I spend in this room? Am I doing this the right way? All these other guys are in line to play it behind me, so I really don't have time to like experiment here.
Yeah.
Whereas like my big question moving forward is, how does progression work? Like he's like, oh, you mod your suit, but like didn't really see how that happens. If it's just more oxygen I put in my suit, or if there's a different kind of currency, or if you just find stations, kind of like Evil Within, that like upgrade your weapons. Who knows? But I was stoked that like, oh, Adrift was here. I didn't know. Like I saw the appointment and didn't really know what games were going to be there. So it was just like I wasn't expecting to actually play that cool game, and it was true to the vision. It was that that demo that you've seen. That trailer. That's it. That's the game. That's Adrift. At least in its current state.
Would you play this, Kyle, or would it be way too stressful for you?
It sounds very stressful because I love exploring so much.
Yeah.
But I would be way in. It sounds like a sell for VR.
Yeah.
The thing you described about going in one direction and looking in another is something you generally don't do. And so, I just think that's really cool.
And I think if you have headphones on and you have the VR thing on, a lot of times I play VR demos that are like, oh, you're in an open field. And it's like, yeah, with the helmet on. You're like, I just can't forget that I have this thing on my face. Whereas like you do have a thing on your face. You're an astronaut. Like you are in a confined space. So like having the headphones, like really close and having the helmet on, or just having a headset or just some kind of rig. Hearing that breath right in your ear, it's effective.
Release date? Did they say?
With a what?
Did they have a release date for it?
I don't think they were specifically talking about that. I think they're kind of in
it could be
when it's done.
That's a 2016
category.
Sounds like it could be a cool Morpheus launch game.
And we'll see. So Huber seems like our VR guy for E3. So you'll
really
definitely be the man to check it out.
Yeah.
Curious to hear about VR details, and go back into space.
Yeah.
Good times.